Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from jennycarddesigns. Thanks so much for joining me today. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting tutorials and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a project from my paper engineering template reference book. I'm going to make a large pocket card and create a Mother's Day card. And we're going to use some 12 by 12 pattern paper to create this. So I'm just going to open up my paper engineering book to the page that I want, and I'm looking for my A8 pocket card template. And this is going to walk me through the steps and measurements on how to create my pocket. So we're going to start with a piece of cardstock. I'm going to flip through this butterfly collage paper pad from Michaels, and I'm going to flip through and decide on which pattern that I want to use. And I ended up landing on this sort of wispy florals that are just kind of focused to the bottom of the page. I thought it was a great use to use up some of those papers that I wouldn't normally use. So there are 2 of each design in this paper pad. And I'm going to use the 2 of this floral paper. This is the one that I'm going to use for today's video, and I'm going to use both of them. So I'm going to start with the first piece. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to get to cutting. So I'm going to take a look at my template guide, and it's going to tell me that my paper needs to be 12 by 9.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my trimmer and making sure that I keep that pattern towards the bottom of the page intact. So I'm going to turn it and cut across this side here and cut it at 9.5 inches. And then we have a scrap left over that you could use for a card project or tags or whatever. I'm not going to use that today. So then I'm going to grab my scoreboard, and my book tells me that I need to make a couple of scores. My first score is going to be on the 12-inch side at 5.5. and then 11 inches. So I'm going to make sure that my paper is on the 12-inch side, and I'll make my first score at 5.5 inches, and then my second score at 11 inches. And then I'll go back to my template book and take a look, and it tells me to rotate my cardstock 1 turn and make another score on the 9.5-inch side. We'll make a score at 8.5 inches. Okay, so that's going to be it for the scoring. Now let's take a look at the template guide. It's telling us to cut away the areas that are marked out in red. So these corners here and then this long strip, I'm going to cut those away. So I'm just going to make sure that my paper that I've got my paper in the same orientation as the guide so I can see which parts to cut away. So I'm going to make a slight angle here and then cut across this score line. And this piece of paper, we're going to save this and we're going to incorporate that into our pocket card later on. So I'm just going to set this aside, and then I'm going to continue to make my cuts in the corners. I'm going to take away this corner totally. So I'm just going to make a slight angle cut to where the score lines intersect, and then turn the paper and then do the same thing. Make another angle where the score lines intersect. And then the last cut, we're just going to cut the top and make a little slight angle cut. And the purpose of making these angle cuts is just so that the pocket folds together nicely without any interference. I'm going to crease all of my score marks with my bone folder, making sure that I get good sharp creases and that everything folds together nicely. So my template guide tells me to apply the adhesive to the 1-inch strip, close up the pockets, and then burnish the adhesive in. Okay, so I'm just going to apply adhesive. I've got the same Cocoyo, I'm not sure how you say it. I got the same dot liner that I use for all of my projects, and I'll have that linked down below. And I want to make sure that I get as close to the edge as I possibly can so that my card doesn't sort of catch on it on the inside when it's sliding in and out. So I'll go ahead and cover this little strip with adhesive and then close the pocket and use my bone folder and press that adhesive in. And then if you have any overhang, I'll just take my scissors and trim those away. And then I'm going to punch a little finger notch into the top of this pocket. All right, the next step we're going to do is create the card that goes inside of the pocket. Now I'm just taking a half sheet of cardstock. It's actually just a little less than half sheet. So I'm cutting this down to 5 3/8 by 8 3/8. It's basically just 1 notch short of 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm taking a half sheet, which is 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm just cutting off little slivers off of each side. And then this is going to slide in and out of our pocket. Now we're going to go back to the paper pad and pull out that second piece of paper to decorate my card. And then I'm also going to grab some of those cut apart elements, and I'm going to use them in my card. So I'm just flipping through the book here to see what I want to use. And then I decided on this row of 3 butterflies and the matching piece of paper that matches my pocket card. So I'm going to go ahead and trim all of this down so that it fits on my little pull out, and I'll have a nice white border around it. I'm not exactly sure of the measurement. I think it's possibly like 8 by 5, I think. And I just use my trimmer and trim it out until I get the area of the pattern that I want on the front of my card. And then I'm going to use some of that adhesive, the same stuff I'd been using to adhere everything down. Now I went ahead and grabbed that little strip that we cut off from the bottom of the pocket card earlier, and I'm going to use that as a little pull to pull my little card out of the pocket. So I'm going to fold that in half first. I'm not going to crease the little top down because I want it to have like a little loop. So I'm just going to kind of figure out where I want it to be, and I'll apply a little bit of adhesive there to seal the 2 pieces together. And then I'll apply a little bit of adhesive to the card where I can set the little pull tab on. And then I'm going to grab the pattern paper and apply adhesive all over that. So I'm going to put lots of adhesive on here. I want to make sure that it's good and glued down so that nothing falls apart. Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball this and make sure that it's lined up in the center, and then press this pattern down onto my card. And then there we go. Now all that's left is a little bit more decorating to finish this, and we'll have a beautiful pullout to go inside of our pocket. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to those little butterflies that I had pulled out of the paper pad, and I'm just kind of figuring out where I want them to be on this card, and I'm going to trim them apart. So I'm going to just use my scissors and follow the little guides there and cut these into 3 separate squares. And I'm going to use that same adhesive and glue them down to the bottom portion of my card. Now I know I'm covering up those pretty elements, those pretty florals. I had a really hard time choosing where these should go, but I just went ahead and covered it, and then I was happy with the result. So next I'm going to grab this stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is called the Mom's Clematis or Clematis, I think. I'll leave it linked in the description box down below. This is a stamp set that I picked up from Simon Says Stamp a few years ago on clearance. I'm not sure if it's still available. If it is, I will link it down below. And I've got the word mother, and I'm going to ink it up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I'm just using an acrylic block for stamping, and I'm going to stamp that kind of offset to the left of the front of this card. And I like the way that looks. So we have the word mother, kindness, beauty, and wisdom. Perfect. I love the way that looks. In the same stamp set, there's a really nice greeting in the back, and it just says all the things, you know, that you want to say to your mom. I forget what it says, but it's really beautiful. I'm going to ink it up with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, make sure that my card is in the right orientation, and then I'm going to stamp it on the back. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I get good even pressure here, and I'll give a second for that ink to transfer onto the paper, and we have a beautiful stamped impression. And all the wonderful things that you want to say to mom are on the back of this card. And then that's going to be it. This project is complete. Here's the Mom's Clematis stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, just in case you're interested. Okay, let's just make sure that our card fits inside of the pocket. Make sure that everything is good to go and ready to give to mom for Mother's Day. And that's going to be it for today's video. Here's a close-up look at our finished card project. If you're interested in any of the things that I used in today's video, including my paper engineering template reference book, you'll find everything linked in the description box down below. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that all of you moms out there and grandmas and memas and all of the peoples have a wonderful Mother's Day. Coming up on screen are a couple of videos I think you may enjoy. Thanks again for joining me. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!